The night was colder than usual, and the road seemed strangely quiet. A light fog hung above the ground, moving slowly as the wind passed through the empty streets. Arham was driving home after spending the evening at his cousin's engagement. His family had gone earlier in another car, but he stayed back to help clean up the hall and pack a few leftover boxes. It had been a long day, and although he felt tired, he was in a calm mood. He kept the window slightly open, letting the cool air keep him awake. As he drove out of the main city and onto the long road that led back to his town, he noticed how empty everything looked. Most shops had their shutters down, and only a few cars crossed him. He played soft music on the radio, humming along without truly paying attention. Everything felt peaceful, almost too peaceful, like the calm before a storm. Arham's car was old almost 10 years. His father always reminded him to get it checked, especially the brakes, but Arham kept delaying the visit to the mechanic. "It still works fine," he would say. "I'll go next week." That next week never came. He trusted the car too much, and because it had never failed him before, he believed it never would. About 20 minutes into the drive, he reached a long downhill road that he had traveled on many times. The slope was gentle at first, then became steeper near the middle, before leveling out near the small bridge that crossed a narrow river. Usually he slowed down before the slope, but this time he didn't think much of it. He was driving at a normal speed, nothing too fast, nothing dangerous. He tapped the brake gently to lower the speed a bit, and that was when he felt something strange. The pedal felt softer than usual. It sank deeper under his foot. He pressed again, harder. The car slowed slightly, but not enough. A tiny wave of worry passed through him. He pressed the brake again, pumping it the way he remembered from something he once heard. The pedal went down, but didn't respond the way it should. Something was wrong, very wrong. The car continued moving forward, gaining speed as it went further down the slope. Arham's heart skipped a beat. He tried not to panic, but the slope was getting steeper, and his car kept rolling faster. He pressed the brake again, this time with all his strength. It didn't help. The pedal felt loose, almost empty, like there was nothing beneath it. His breathing grew unsteady. "Please, not tonight," he whispered to himself. "Please work." The car sped up a little more. The bridge ahead was still far, but the slope would take him there in less than a minute. He searched for solutions in his mind. He tried shifting to a lower gear, hoping the engine would slow the car down, but he wasn't used to doing it at high speed. The gear jerked. The car shook slightly, but it didn't slow enough. He pulled the handbrake gently, afraid that pulling it too hard would make the car skid. The car slowed just a little, but not enough to stop. Panic slowly rose inside him. He looked around for help, for lights, for anything, but the road was empty. Only the fog and the cold night air stayed with him. He grabbed the steering wheel with both hands, gripping it tightly as the car continued racing downhill. He honked, not because anyone was there, but because it made him feel a little less helpless. His heart thumped loudly in his chest. He knew he needed to stay calm, but it felt almost impossible. "Think, Arham, think," he told himself. The bridge was getting closer. On the other side of it was a curve, a sharp one. If he reached that curve at this speed, he knew he wouldn't be able to stay on the road. His hands trembled slightly as he tried the brake again. Nothing changed. The car kept going, the engine whining, the tires rolling faster and faster. He glanced at the trees lining the road. They were thick and dark, their branches reaching out like shadows. If he turned into them, the car would hit something for sure. He looked at the small gravel area to the left, where some trucks usually parked during the day. Maybe he could drive into it and let the rough ground slow him down. But it was too far behind him now. He had already passed it. The only thing ahead was the bridge. He felt a tightness in his chest. "This can't be happening," he whispered, but it was happening. He rolled down the window completely and let the cold wind hit his face. It helped him focus. He had to act fast. The slope was almost over, and the bridge was only seconds away. He pulled the handbrake a little more. This time the car jerked sharply, the tires screeched, and the back of the car wobbled. Arham quickly adjusted the steering wheel to keep control. The car slowed, but only slightly. Not enough. He looked ahead again and froze. A small white car was on the bridge, moving slowly, almost like the driver was careful or unsure. It was probably a family heading home, unaware of the danger coming straight at them. Arham felt his stomach drop. "No, no, no," he whispered, fear gripping him tightly. He pressed the horn repeatedly, long and loud, hoping the other driver would hear him and move out of the way. The white car slowed down even more, confused by the sudden horn. Arham waved his hand out the window, shouting even though he knew they couldn't hear him. He kept honking, desperate. The bridge was only a few meters away now. The other car finally understood something was wrong and moved slightly to the side, but the bridge was narrow. There wasn't enough room. Arham made a decision he never imagined making. Instead of going straight, he turned the steering slightly toward the railing of the bridge. If he hit it at an angle, maybe it would slow him down enough to avoid crashing into the other car. Maybe he could control the direction just enough. The car hit the railing with a loud metallic sound. The impact shook the whole vehicle. Arham's head jerked forward, and his body pressed hard against the seatbelt. Sparks flew where the metal scraped against metal. The car slowed, but the railing bent dangerously. The white car managed to pass him, the driver looking terrified but safe. Arham felt a moment of relief, but it didn't last long. His own car was still moving. Slower, but not stopped. The railing continued to bend, and the car began to lean slightly toward the river below. He held the steering wheel tightly, trying to pull the car back onto the road, but the weight and speed made it difficult. His arms hurt from the effort. "Come on," he muttered, fighting the wheel. The car scraped along the railing for a few more seconds that felt like hours. Finally, the car slowed enough for the handbrake to take hold. It jerked, shook, and then came to a stop halfway across the bridge. Everything fell silent except for the soft ticking sound of the engine cooling and Arham's heavy breathing. He let go of the steering wheel and leaned back, his whole body shaking. His hands were trembling so much he had to rest them on his lap. He looked ahead and saw the white car parked a little distance away. A man hurried toward him, shouting, asking if he was okay. Arham nodded weakly, but couldn't speak. He felt tears gather in his eyes, not from pain, but from fear, shock, and relief all mixed together. The man reached his window. "Are you all right?" "What happened?" he asked, his voice filled with concern. Arham swallowed hard and pointed at the brake pedal. "Brakes," he whispered. "They failed." The man's eyes widened. He looked at the bent railing, the long scrape marks on the side of the bridge, and then back at Arham. "You're lucky," he said softly. "You're very lucky." Arham nodded slowly. He knew the man was right. If he hadn't turned toward the railing, he would have hit their car directly. If the railing had broken completely, his car might have fallen into the river below. If the slope had been longer, he might not have been able to control it at all. Emergency lights soon filled the area as people arrived to help. Someone called Arham's father, and when he reached the bridge, his face showed a mix of fear and anger. He hugged Arham tightly, not saying anything for a long time. When he finally pulled away, he looked at the car and shook his head. "I told you to get it checked," he said quietly, not out of anger, but out of worry. Some things shouldn't be delayed. Arham looked at the bent railing again, imagining what could have happened. A deep, heavy feeling settled in his chest, not guilt alone, but a realization that he had ignored something important. Something that could have cost not only his life, but the lives of the people in the white car. Later, when the car was towed away and the road was cleared, Aram sat in silence for a long time. He thought about every moment of the incident, the soft brake pedal, the uncontrollable slope, the desperate honking, the decision to hit the railing, and the fear in his own heart when he realized he might not walk away from that night. He knew he would never forget it. When he finally got home, he stepped out of the car that brought him and looked up at the sky. The stars were faint behind the thin clouds, but for the first time that night, he felt a strange sense of peace. He had survived, and he had learned something he would never ignore again. The next morning, he went with his father to the mechanic. The mechanic looked at the car and shook his head at the worn-out brake lines, the leaking fluid, and the faded pads. "You were lucky," the mechanic said. "This could have ended very differently." Aram nodded. "I know," he replied quietly. From that day on, he never delayed car maintenance again. He understood that safety wasn't just about good driving. It was about taking care of the vehicle itself, even when it seemed fine. Moral lesson: never ignore warning signs, even small ones. A little delay can lead to a life-changing moment. Safety should always come first, because one simple decision can save lives or put them at risk.